welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today we are exploring sector number 475 with Nick from Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. Welcome back, Nick.
Hey, man. Thanks so much for having me again. I appreciate it every single time.
We've got a variety of news on this sector, ranging from anime, we've got Pokemon, DC Comics, but first, if this is your very first episode, the way we format it is we go through the reasons we're broke, which are a block of news, that's the chunk of the podcast, and then we cap it off with the Bro-Cap block, which is the part where you get to know Nick and I a little bit better, the more personal side, what's been going on this week, what we've been playing, reading, what's been going on at work, and that's at the very end of today's show. So let's jump right into the news. First one here is the record-breaking Demon Slayer, the movie Mugen Train. That's one that I got to see in theaters with Scott from Lazy Gaming Guys, another host on the show. That will be arriving to Blu-ray in the US on December 21st. Cutting it close to Christmas time, but it is right beforehand. It will have a limited edition Blu-ray from Aniplex of America. It comes with an original soundtrack CD, a deluxe booklet, a rigid box with an exclusive art by character designer Akira Matsushima, special digipack featuring art by UFO Table, as well as audio commentary with English subtitles. So, Nick, how familiar are you with this record-breaking anime movie?
Unfortunately, not at all, I'm sorry to say. I can't really give too much to it. I do like, as we're going through that, though, like, I'm thinking about buying it just for the stuff. I mean, I like the bundle. Like, let's get a CD, a booklet, art, and a bunch of stuff in there. Like, that's pretty cool.
It's really rare now, I feel like. I don't know, maybe in the DVD days where you got all kinds of booklets, even in a standard DVD, and now it seems like they just throw in the disc, the plastic case, and you have to buy like a special box set to get all the goodies. But now with everything going digital, I think it's rare to see stuff like this, and I think that's why it's so special when they do go all out on a Blu-ray or DVD.
Yeah, I think it's my Man of Steel Blu-ray is like really in depth. It came with like a really cool book and a bunch of art and a bunch of different things in that. And like, that's the last really good one that I can remember saving, because I keep all my DVDs in binders. So, you know, all the cases eventually get thrown out unless they're good, like we're talking about. And the last one that I like, the most current one, I think, is really honestly Man of Steel.
Is that the one that came with the comic book prequel, or was that sold separately?
That might have been sold separately, because I would have had that somewhere, and I don't remember seeing that around lately. But it did. There was some sort of art book that I know exactly where it is. I could share with you either later on Discord or something like that. But it was awesome. Like it adds to the experience a little bit more.
You mentioned that some of the cases get thrown away. They go straight into a binder. We had talked about that on the last episode you were in. Do you ever have any kind of anxiety on certain ones? Like, maybe this will be collectible one day. Maybe I should hang on to the cases.
Very rarely, but yeah, there are some few and far between that do that. But anyway, no, normally they get thrown out. The saddest story I have of that, and if I told it stop me, is like the day that I decided to do it, I threw out, I don't even know how many, into the recycling bin, and the recycle guys come to get the recycling, and they look down and they think, oh shit, look at all these movies. And they start opening them, and one's empty. So they're like, oh wow, that was weird. And they open another one, it's still empty. They open the third one, they're like, fuck this guy, and just throw all the shit in the back. And watching that whole thing, like, sorry guys, no, it's not for you.
Poor guys. I'm sure they find treasures all the time, though. They'll come across some stuff.
I really don't even, maybe I want to know. Just shit, man. I walk around the town or the city, I guess, all the time, and I'm like, really? You think the trashmen are going to pick this up? And it's fucking gone. Like, there's what's it called? A treadmill down the street from me. I'm like, damn, I'm going to be interested to see if they take this, because this looks heavy as shit, but this town takes everything.
If there isn't a trash man or garbage man, whatever the proper label is, I feel like I'm offending one of them right now. If there isn't one of those, a podcast for them, there should be. I know there's a Twitch streamer that puts the camera right on the garbage or the recycling thing, and then he goes around, and whenever the recyclables are in the wrong spot, he'll rip open his shirt, and there's like a Superman thing underneath, and he'll separate the recyclables properly and then throw it in the recycling thing. So there's an idea if anyone has works in that industry. I'd be interested to hear all of those stories, because I'm sure there are some.
There's got to be. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would love to listen to that too.
Capping off this Demon Slayer release, the critically acclaimed Demon Slayer the movie Mugen Train earned $470 million globally at the box office, becoming the number one film worldwide in 2020, the first non-Hollywood, non-US film to achieve this. And that's a huge deal. When we covered this particular feat, they even accounted for inflation. This was number of tickets sold, and this was in the middle of a pandemic. People love their fucking Demon Slayer in Japan and worldwide.
It's super impressive, especially when you put it that way, in the middle of a pandemic and accounting for inflation. Like, you are not fucking lying. People really love this shit. I feel honestly kind of sheepish for not even like having it on my radar, because I'm not even going to sit here and say, I enjoy anime. It's not something that I don't enjoy because I haven't tried it. It's just there's so much, and a jumping in point sometimes just seems a little overwhelming. So for the most part, anime kind of sits on the back burner for me. But in this quote unquote business of nerd, I'm at least up on enough to be like, oh, Demon Slayer, I've heard of that, but no, nothing for this. And now it's the number one film worldwide in 2020. Like, probably going to have to at least look into this one, at the very least, look into it.
I'm in the same boat as you, very casual anime viewer, and I kind of just get it from friends that I have. They get excited for this stuff, and I'm like, oh, I get wrapped up in it too, and I'll check it out. At the shop, Demon Slayer kept selling like crazy, the manga. One of my youngest employees, she suggested you should start carrying Demon Slayer, and I'm like, whatever you tell me I should carry with manga, I'll listen to you, because you're that market. And it evaporated as soon as we started carrying it, and then it hit Netflix. Season 1 is on Netflix right now. I watched that entire season, and then right as I caught up and finished all the episodes, it's not a very long season either, that's when they announced the Demon Slayer movie, and it was like a limited release, and then they brought it back. I think it was a Fathom Events thing, and I was able to catch it. So I do recommend it. It's really cool. It's got a nice soundtrack. It is a little bit heavier in themes. It's a little bit gory, but it is enjoyable. Not something that I'm running out to, let's get season 2 and let me read the manga so I can see what happens. But at least we know it has an ending. The manga has ended, so we're probably going to get 3 more seasons out of the show. And we know that it's going to have its own ending. So I do recommend it if you ever get a chance.
No, I will do that.
On to the next news story, we've got Pokemon, as the Pokemon Company and Creatures Inc. have announced an art contest that will invite fans to contribute artwork to be featured as upcoming promo cards. This marks the first time that this contest will be available to trainers in the United States. In case you are an artist, entries will be accepted beginning on October 13th through January 31st of next year, with winners announced summer 2022. So you've got plenty of time to plan it out. When I clicked on the link and I checked out what the rules were and what the criteria, and there is a choice of, I believe, 8 Pokemon on there. So you've got Charizard, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, Greninja, basically the top 10 most popular ones as of the last poll that they ran 2 years ago. And it's pretty huge that it's the first time it's open to U.S. trainers. And I will say that I hope that Bulbasaur does not get printed. The winners basically have the card printed for them, I think 100 copies. And if that happens, that'll be the second Bulbasaur card I can never own, because the first one being another N64 printing of another contest winner 20 years ago that who knows if those cards even exist. But I think it's really neat that if you have any artists out there that want to enter and you draw Pokemon, this is your chance.
Fucking A, yeah. I wonder, I didn't read the rules or anything, so maybe he won't be allowed. But I follow this one guy on Instagram, Josh Dunlop, or Dunlop. I don't really know. He's from the UK, and he does like the hyper realistic looking ones, almost as if he is. And then he writes a cool essay about it too. So like in the description, almost as if he is a Pokemon hunter or trainer of sorts. And so it'll be a little BBC-ish. Sometimes I read it in David Attenborough's head where it's like, I got one here. Is like, I was trekking through the thickly forested mountains of northern Kanto. The air was sweet with the smell of soil and nature and birds. And then from the canopy above, I was attacked by song and dance. And then it's his Primeape drawing. And it's super realistic and good looking. But I like the little story that goes with it too. It's a fully enveloped idea. And I bet if he enters, he might win. He's almost done all the 150 of the original ones. And it's fire. He's really good at his job.
That's the neat thing about the rules is they left it pretty open. They were basically like draw a Pokemon and the background to it. And they didn't give any type of it needs to be digital or it needs to be hand drawn or it needs to be photographed. They left it really open ended. I think which was smart because they're going to get all kinds of different entries. And there's so many talented artists out there, DeviantArt, Instagram, major accounts that do incredible artwork. I think it's going to be really tough for them to decide it on the two regions, which are the US and Japan, 2 winners each. So you're going to have 4 cards out there. But I mean, imagine being that judge of like, all right, what do we judge this on? Is this going to be judged on the card that what'll look good on a card or which is legitimately a good piece of art? It's always tough when it comes to artwork.
Yeah, because it's subjective, you know. Some people might go out there and try to make an exact replica of something that they've seen, whereas somebody else might choose their own style. And you look at it and you're like, oh, I see that. I get that that's a Charizard, but that's not really what it looks like. But is that what makes it cool or is that what makes it not? You know, subjectivity in that is all sorts of fucking weird.
I will never want to be an art judge. We did it once at the comic shop where we had this Superman 1000 that just come out and all these blank covers were out and we're like, all right, we're going to order some extras and we're going to have an art contest. And we had like an age bracket. So little kids can enter and then you had the adults. And when we announced the winners and posted them on Facebook, the families of the people that lost were on there like, oh, mine's is better and my kid's is way better. How could you choose that one? And I'm like, Jesus Christ. One and the adults one, they're like, who was the winner? And I showed him and he was like, oh, mine's painted though. Mine has color. That one doesn't have color and that one's digital. Like you can just do that on a computer. And I'm like, man, I never want to do this shit because there's no winning. Everyone's always mad at you.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that happening 100%. Went to art school for a very short time, and it's always the hardest thing. You know, you have to critique each other so you grow and learn, but at the same time, like there are some people who can take it, and there's some people who are like, no, it's supposed to be like that. And it's like, okay, that's cool too, bro. Just trying to help here.
Something that is a wonderful piece of artwork involves Tony Hawk, as Liquid Death and Tony have come together for a promotion that features a limited number of skateboards infused with Tony Hawk's blood. A total of 100 boards have been sold for $500 each, with a portion of profits going towards anti-plastic nonprofit Five Gyres and Tony Hawk's The Skate Park Project. What do you think about this when they throw blood into ink when they print comics? I think Kiss did it in the 90s or 80s, and now Tony Hawk with skateboards.
The Kiss thing was the first thing I thought of when I read this, so I'm so happy you brought that up too, man. Like, in just one word, it's metal. It's metal as shit. Like, I can't think of anything else just cooler than like gonna put some blood in there. And now it sucks that they're already sold, though. I wonder how quick those went. Wonder how much blood they each have.
I saw like the little making of video, and you see Tony and they're taking his blood. It looked like one vial, and then they mixed it in with the red paint, and there was more than enough red paint there to do the, I think, 100 skateboards, because it looked like they were doing 1 or 2 layers. So, I mean, there's definitely some DNA in there, and I think they could have done more than 100, especially at $500. That's in this current market where everyone's going crazy with collectibles, 1,000 minimum on that thing. One of the greatest skateboarders ever.
I did, yeah. I kind of read that. We were like, fuck, I could afford, like, can I afford to lose $500? Technically, no. You know, it would be much nicer if I had it. But if I was like that Tony Hawk fan, like 500, like, yeah, I could squeeze that out. So I was very, very surprised that was the price point, because I agree with you on the fact of, like, you see shit going for much more, and it's much less than someone's fucking blood inside the thing they're best known for. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing.
I'm going to have to look into Liquid Death and see if this is something they do normally. Is there anything that you would want to own from, let's say, your favorite music artist or filmmaker, where they would have their blood mixed into a printing of a movie or a comic or something like that? Does anyone come to mind that you would say, I think I'm going to try to get that?
It would be cool. Yeah, I don't know why. The first place that I went, like if Travis Barker put some of his blood in sticks or something, like I'd probably want to own those. That'd be cool.
I mean, there's got to be a part of you, even if you own this skateboard or an instrument or something with that person's blood, where you're like, let me play a little bit. Like you're playing with their DNA. Like it's got to feel kind of awesome. You know, not something I'd use all the time, but I mean, imagine riding a skateboard with Tony Hawk's fucking blood in it. It's just so cool. Just the thought of it.
Yeah, or like holding a stick with Gretzky's blood in it, or just somebody who was so good at what they did. They literally put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. Now you have a board with the blood in it. Like, I don't know. It might give you some like Mike Powers. Remember that flick with Michael Jordan had his shoes and little Bow Wow found them or some shit?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'd completely
Jonathan
forgot
Lipnick,
about
he was around hanging out, and all of a sudden he was like on a real team. But
it.
what if that was true though? Like somebody bought this board and they're like, I couldn't do shit. Now all of a sudden I'm as good as Tony Hawk.
Yeah, that's another movie right there. You can remake the one you were just talking about, which I never would have remembered unless you would have brought it up. From now until when I died, it never would have come back up. But that's a great idea, though. They should just do it. Why not?
I'm just saying, guys, back the money truck up now because it writes itself. Like Mike, like Hawk now. Boom, it's done.
On my end, I think I'd like to get a comic artist or a colorist that can have their blood in the reds and maybe do up a commission piece on a cover. But I always wondered with the Kiss comic book, or if they were to do that with a piece of artwork, if human blood at all changes. I mean, it's got to change the composition of it, but over time, if it would degrade quicker because there's actual DNA in it, there's like human liquid in it, which I would think is going to either, like if you look at crime scenes, if you watch those shows, the blood gets it almost gets brown over time, and it's got this really dark red to it. So I'm wondering if in like 20 or 30 years, I'd have to look at those Kiss comics, if the ink has changed or degraded quicker than comic ink. I'd be curious about that.
Yeah, not something I ever could have said I gave any amount of thought of time, but now that you've said it, I don't know if I'll ever stop thinking about it. Just like, I wonder if it's fading away faster or if it's darkening up quicker. Like if I had a vat of blood and a vat of comic ink, would one dissipate faster? I don't know. The viscosity of the two has to definitely do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I don't know. But I'm not lying, man. I'm going to think about that for a while until I figure it out.
We're going to look up Kiss comics right after this. And a little bit of a sadder note. As of last week, Family Guy has been removed from Adult Swim to stream and air exclusively on Disney-owned platforms. Cartoon Network did a goodbye bumper for the show. Family Guy premiered in reruns after it was canceled on Adult Swim on April 20th, 2003, and immediately became the block's top-rated program, dominating late-night viewing in its time period versus cable, and boosting viewership by 239%. That, of course, also helped the DVD sales, which eventually got it renewed for more seasons. So it's now leaving the network that basically gave it life again.
Which seems super shitty, because you're right. I think even Fox canceled it twice.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, it couldn't have even put it any better of giving it life more than once. Of that show wouldn't be around making the money that it was if it wasn't for that. Like, that fucking figure is so insane. 239%. Like, that's fucking insane to think like nobody was watching it and then 239 extra people showed up. Like, it's crazy.
Family Guy was definitely a staple of that era of Adult Swim. I watched some beforehand too. There was also Robot Chicken during that period. Great block of TV, and that's definitely how I got introduced to Family Guy, was through Adult Swim. I ended up buying or getting the DVDs from Sam's Club. And there was some of those were Christmas presents, and I enjoyed them. I liked the first and second season. Eventually, I dropped off of Family Guy, but if it wasn't for Adult Swim, I wouldn't have continued watching it for years to come. And I know that it's now a Disney Media World. When they bought up Fox, they bought up so much with it. And because of that, it's now going to be on FXX, I think is what they're calling it. I didn't know if that was different from FX, but it's going to be airing on there along with The Simpsons, which is another big Disney grab for them. And sad to see it go. Did you have any Family Guy memories? Were you a fan of the show?
Fuck yeah, dude. I was going to ask you if this grinded your gears as much as it did mine.
Nice.
Thank you. In collecting the fucking DVDs, that the first season is volume 1. And I don't remember where it fucks up, but one of the seasons isn't the right volume. So eventually it goes like it's volume 2, season 2, volume 3, season 2, part 2, or some shit like that. So then forevermore collecting, the volume and the season number were off by one. And my OCD brain, it drove me fucking crazy and then I put them all in binders, and I couldn't remember which was which. So it worked out okay in the long run. But I just remember looking at it like, why? Why did you do this? The same thing with The Simpsons. Like one year they went and they put everything in Homer's head. So like all of them looked the same with like nice boxed type. And then all of a sudden it was in Homer's head. So when you look at the collection on a shelf, you're like, the fuck is going on? It was almost like the same thing. And little shit like that, for whatever strange reason, bothers me. But to answer the question proper, like I loved Family Guy. I would say only in the last like 5 or 6 years have I really truly fallen off of just like, I'll wait for it to come back around. You know, I'll catch it on Hulu or wherever I catch it eventually, of like not actually taping it, Jesus, of not actually recording it and then watching it later. Like I really, really love it. And like to this day, I would challenge anybody, like come sit and watch season 1 with me. And I probably could do that shit word for word still. Like I thought it was the funniest thing.
Right when McFarlane got off of the writing, I think that's when the show started really changing, and I'm not sure what he ended up getting really busy with, but I know he still did the voices and all of that and came back for that, which I'm sure he was really happy for. But that's the period when he started doing movies and kind of branching off into some more things. They did some spin-offs. The Cleveland Show was going on for a couple of years there. And it was awesome. And I think the primary reason why I dropped off was because I no longer lived with my parents. They had cable, and I don't have cable, and I don't have Hulu. So yep. if I had Hulu, though, I'd probably start watching the newer seasons just to see where they're at, how the comedy has changed. South Park, I still keep up with. Simpsons, I definitely dropped out of, and I tried the newer seasons. Couldn't really do it. It has a very different feel than season 3, 4, 5 when it was really at its peak. But Family Guy, I felt like always, for the most part, kind of kept its groove. And if one day I get Hulu again, I'll probably go back and catch up. But I don't have any Disney-owned platforms on my list of services, so it might be a little while. And yeah, go ahead.
No, I was wondering if you mentioned his movies, and the two that I like, when I think of Family Guy dropping off, I find it in and around the time of the first Ted and A Million Ways to Die in the West. And I was just curious if you like those or even seen them, heard of them.
I've heard of both of them. I didn't see either one. I know Ted did pretty good, and I think it got a sequel. Did you see them, and what'd you think?
I love the first Ted, and I like A Million Ways to Die in the West. It's just super weird, but like if you don't like Family Guy in terms of like cutaway gags, you might want to stay away from that one. It's every now and then you're just like, well, that was random kind of shit, but at the same time, I like that just dumb, I don't want to say pointless humor, but like at one point he walks into his parents' house and his father goes, "Where were you?" And he goes, "What do you care?" And the father goes, "Good point," and just keeps going with the scene. Like it's just irreverent, but it's fucking funny, I think.
Ted was rated R, wasn't it?
Yeah. That teddy bear curses a lot for whatever reason or however reason. He doesn't have a dick, but yet he still fucks a lot, does drugs, hangs out with hookers. It's pretty fun.
My buddy Clayton works at a movie theater, and he always mentioned that during Ted, there would be parents with their kids asking for tickets to see Ted, and he'd always be like, "That's rated R." No, it's fine though, and because it's a little teddy bear, they would think like they can watch it, they can see it. And I never saw the movie, so I don't know how bad it gets or if there's nudity or anything like that. But that always stuck with me whenever I think of Ted, of him going, "All right," and same with Deadpool. Kids, parents, whatever. It's funny, it's okay, and who knows if they ended up leaving the movie.
I'm just sitting here thinking right now, you know, if I was in a moral quandary for whatever reason, I don't have kids, but I have nephews, and my oldest nephew is still, you know, he's just a kid, really, 5 or 6. But for whatever reason, I've made up this scenario of like, you got to show him Deadpool or Ted. And I'm like, shit, this is a Kobayashi Maru. I don't know which one I'd pick. They're both pretty fucking horrible to show to kids. Lose. I can't believe that no parents kind of looked up like, this is rated R for, you know, it says it in the MPAA rated for like nudity and violent cursing and stuff like that. But drug use, there was definitely a shit ton of drug use in that movie.
Maybe you just have to reach a level of not caring as a parent where it's like, it'll keep them quiet for an hour and a half. I don't care. Just sell me the fucking tickets.
Yep. I could see that. Again, only from an uncle's point of view, but I could see how that would get there quite quickly. Like, you want to see the teddy bear movie? Fine. Let's go.
From one McFarlane to another, McFarlane Toys has announced a line of Batman the Three Jokers 7-inch action figures. No street day currently, but pre-orders do go up this week. The line will include Batman, Batgirl, Red Hood, and of course, 3 different Jokers. However you may feel about Jeff Johns as a media writer or handler in the industry, he does comics great, and Batman 3 Jokers was an incredible seller. Doesn't surprise me that we're seeing action figures of it. McFarlane Toys, they're pretty solid. I don't personally collect a ton of them. I collected the Snyder Cut ones because I wanted to vote with my dollar and show that merchandise was there and boost those sales. But the 3 Jokers, I might jump in on these 3, and at the very least collect the 3 different Jokers.
First, Daniel, just gotta say, your segue there was just so fucking on point.
Unplanned.
It was so good.
Like, I didn't even put the Family Guy thing by the McFarlane Toys thing. It just happened to fall that way. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect.
It really fucking was, man. Hats off. That was great. I just sat here smiling, just like, my man, fucking professional and shit. That was good.
Not at all. I'm going to find out that their last names are spelled differently now. Watch.
But for me, for collecting, like, I appreciate Todd McFarlane. I appreciate the toys and how he does. But same as you, I don't really collect. The most figures I have, if you can even call them figures, are Funko Pops. I do have some in-betweeners, but I don't know why the one that I'm most interested in seeing first is the Red Hood one.
Yeah, I think it's because there's not a lot of Red Hood figures. They did one for the Arkham games, and then they did a generic one from the Jim Lee Hush storyline, but overall, they're not too common, which is kind of weird because Red Hood has his fans, and I feel like I can sell a solid Red Hood action figure from now until the end of time.
Yeah, you just brought up something else. So I do collect the DC icon statues, but there isn't one for Nightwing. And you just said Jim Lee. There's a Jim Lee, I guess, inspired one. Like, it's his drawing, but they made it out of where the baton's twirling in his right hand.
I've seen that one.
What I'm talking about? Oh fuck! I need to get on that. I need to find that and get that in the collection. I just figured out it was a thing the other day, and I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna buy this."
Were you able to pick up the 3 Jokers trade or read the 3 issues when they released?
Yeah. I went right down to my local shop. Anybody in the area wants to go and give Comics by the Green in downtown Scranton their money, do that. I went all the time. Every single one I was there, and I was just like, "Thank you." They were really good. I'm kind of with you. I don't know if, however you said about Jeff Johns, I know some people don't love him, but this I thought was like, all right, this is good. It's like, this is what I would expect from him anymore, like in a good way.
We're far enough from that 3rd issue that I don't even need to say spoilers. If you haven't read this miniseries, then shame on you. It's solid. But what did you think of the idea where they pretty much gave an answer as to how there's 3 different iterations of the Joker over the years? Not that they needed to answer the question because comics change. There's been 80 years of these things as far as the Joker and Batman, but that Jeff was able to give an explanation that there were 3 different people at least that have been giving Batman trouble throughout all of these years. One of them is the current one, which was the Killing Joke one, and he gave that answer. Pretty controversial with readers, but what was your take on it?
I thought it was different, so therefore it was kind of cool. That idea of it being more than one person was not something I ever really considered, but it's also, at least it's different. So at the very end of the day, I like that because I didn't see it coming. So I was genuinely reading something, like flipping the page, like, the fuck is going on here? And that I like. I don't get a lot of that anymore. So yeah, it was a little controversial in where he left it, but in my opinion, it was good. It was cool. What do you think?
I think he was smart enough that he gave us answers as to, okay, this is the definitive one currently alive in the comics. This is the one that's responsible for Barbara's when she was paralyzed in the Killing Joke, and then this one is the gangster one, that where it hurts to laugh, and that's why in the old comics you don't see him laughing too much. But he also kept it vague enough as to which one was the first one, which one created the other 2, and that's, I thought, where he was smart about it, because then you can leave it up to interpretation of it could have been any one of them, and you don't really have the answer. And the other problem too of Batman saying, "I always knew the Joker's name, but it's not relevant," and it's also to protect that Killing Joker's family, because he does have a son and a wife out there that he doesn't know are still alive. So there was enough in there that I think I at least was satisfied to go, okay, well, I got my answers and they left it open-ended. And if I ended up hating all three issues, guess what? It doesn't have to count. You know, you don't have to say there's definitely three. I can say, well, you know what? It's kind of an offshoot story. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't see how people get so torn up on like, no, I can't live with this knowledge now. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's like, dude, just pretend like you didn't read that shit. It's okay. Whatever you had in your head before, for you, that's what's right.
Right. Yeah. It's like the real answer is there's different writers. Things change. It doesn't matter. They don't have to give you an answer. But if you want an answer, here you go. Because some people are big about canon and they need answers and they gave you it. If you like it, great. If you don't, oh well. You don't have to count it.
I mean, Batman's been Batmaning since like the 30s. You know, we're almost coming up, closer to 100 years than not. And like you said, different people doing it. How can we have one canon interpretation? It just seems like too much. So yes, these offshoots are going to come out and they're great. I like them. And if you want to keep them as canon, that's you. You do you, but I don't like we were kind of talking about. I think that he was smart in what he did. He gave us enough, but also left it vague enough that it can kind of float in and out.
Some more comic book news this week as some major changes. Another publisher has announced that it is going to move its direct market distribution away from Diamond. And this is a big one. It's IDW Publishing, who are known for the Sonic the Hedgehog comics. And they're coming up on some pretty big independent or indie books that are getting traction away from the big two. And they're moving over to Penguin Random House starting June of next year. This follows Marvel's announcement to also move to Penguin Random House, and that starts this November. Diamond president and totally not a mobster Steve Geppi offered a response to IDW's move saying, quote, "I would like to thank IDW for their many years of partnership, and we are delighted to continue selling IDW's comics, trades, and graphic novels to our retail customers as a wholesale effective June 1st, 2022. End quote. I feel like there's a threat somewhere there. I don't know where, but I think like something's going to happen to IDW at the hands of Steve Geppi, but I could be wrong.
So like, what does this mean for you then?
Oh shit, man. That's a great question. That means I probably have to, and I'll know, I think next month when we move over to Penguin Random House. Currently with just DC away from DC Comics, I have to do my final order cutoff orders on Thursdays. And then I do everyone else's on Saturdays. But now that IDW and Marvel are going to be moving away from Diamond, I don't know if that means I'm going to have 4 different days that I have to go in and do orders for, or if I can do them all on 2. I'm going to have at least 3 different days now that I have to do special orders just for these different publishers. And it's obnoxious and it's dumb. And I hope that because IDW and Marvel are on Penguin, that can just be one thing, but I'll have at least 3 that I'll have to do separately now.
Yeah, that sounds like a giant pain in the ass.
It's one of the 2-3 years ago, it was easy looking back on it, doing orders and taking care of regular business. But now it's like there's different distributors and there's different things you got to do. And now there's probably going to be different final order cutoffs. I'm not going to have the same tools like Diamond of having it all on one website. I can show this to the customers and go, here's the link you can check every week if you want. It'll have all the variants you want. Oh, except DC. DC's is over here. But now I'm going to have, oh wait, here's Penguin Random Houses as well. And if they're not in the previews catalog, I hope they are, but if they're not, that's going to be another fucking thing where are they going to have their own catalog for just Penguin Random House? Because customers, subscribers, they like to have a physical catalog to look through the comics. I don't blame them. They're physical comic buyers. I like a physical catalog. So it's all a matter of time will tell. I'm trying not to panic. I'm going to try to handle it as it comes. But just to answer that question, it's going to be more complicated.
Well, good luck to you. And I do genuinely mean that. It kind of sounds a little snarky coming off that, but I do really, truly mean that. Yeah, that sucks. Because like Diamond did everything for a while, right?
They had the monopoly. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, I mean, when you put it that way, am I happy there's not a monopoly? I mean, it never affected me, but shit, that's going to be crazy. Yeah, it would make sense that you should be able to do both of the IDWs now on the same day, but if they don't know exactly what they're getting into, in my opinion. So there's going to be more headaches than not, unfortunately. If I'm not trying to put a damper on your day, but that's what I'm finding out a little bit at work too, of like just having stuff being different, of like they don't know what they want until they have it yet. So
Mhm.
like, Diamond knows what they want because it took them how long to figure it out exactly what people wanted. And now these guys are going to have to follow suit. It's going to be a learning curve for everyone.
And that's there's going to be growing pains. I'm sure there's going to be publishing delays. There's going to be printing problems. And Penguin Random House, they've been around for years, and I get that. But to suddenly handle Marvel and IDW's printing and comic books and shipping on top of the trades that we already get from them, like that's one thing. At least we already have an account with them, so we can just say, hey, okay, we're ordering these now, and not have it to set up a whole thing and have it take weeks or whatever. So there's some positives there that I'm trying to find. But once there's going to be a lot of questions once that transition happens. It's going to be a very different comic book world for comic shops by the end of next year, and I'm sure you'll hear me bitching about it right here on the podcast.
I again, not trying to sound snippy, though it does, but I genuinely look forward to it because I find that shit interesting. It's a place that I've been going for as long as I can, since I was in short pants. And now, like, it is kind of like, it's one of my favorite parts about your podcast is hearing you talk about, like, how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Let me know next time you go to your LCS in like a couple of months. See what they say. Every comic shop kind of has their own process, but I'd be curious to see how they're handling the transitions and all of these changes.
Will do, for sure.
On the movie side of things, we've got a couple of news stories here to wrap up the news for the week. In an interview with El Mundo, Dune director Denis Villeneuve has joined a long list of all-star Hollywood names that have criticized Disney's MCU movies. The headline that was grabbing the attention of everyone and kind of riling up read, quote, "There are too many Marvel movies that are nothing more than a cut and paste of others," end quote. And that ended up being a mistranslation or a paraphrase. They ended up translating the interview properly, and he more or less said that when he was asked about his process in as an auteur filmmaker in making Dune compared to some other movies, he answered it with, "We're talking about Marvel, right? Well, they have something that works for them. They have a formula, but all of their movies kind of follow that formula." And that's basically what he was saying. But even that, I think, would have been taken as a negative, because since these comments, MCU fans have review bombed the upcoming Dune on various movie websites, including IMDb, which me on the other side as a DCEU fan, someone that's begging for a sequel to one Justice League movie, I'm like, you guys had over 20 films. You had a definitive ending if you want with Endgame. You guys have the world and the fragile egos of the fan base. Like, this is gonna rile you up still? Like, this, after all of these filmmakers have said all of these things about Marvel and all of these years of that criticizing, and it still gets you every time? Like, it's kind of shocking to me. I'm not an MCU fan, but I think over time I'd be like, all right, well, who cares? Like, I'm enjoying it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Their filmmakers great, but they really got mad at this one.
Dude, you're so smart. You really are, man. I like talking to you. So, like, I had never really thought of the fact of, like, what are you guys bitching about? Even if he said something, like, you have it all. Like, you just said it. Like, you're right. They do. Those sheep have everything everywhere that they want. And, like, to call them sheep doesn't mean that I'm not. Like, I like the MCU in its capacity, understanding that its capacity is, in my opinion, exactly what this guy says, of, like, they have a fucking formula and they stick to that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, too, if I was in the business of making money, because whether or not we like it, they want to make good movies, I think. But if it was between a good movie and money, they're going to make money first. So they're going to follow these formulas to make their money and hopefully give fans some service, too. And they've done it, like, it just keeps coming out. Like, so, yeah, for you to say that, man, I had never fucking thought of it. They have it all. What the hell are you bitching for? Why are you bombing this poor guy's movie? That's stupid. That's just, I don't know. Just because you're a fan of one thing doesn't mean you have to hate on other things, in my opinion. So that's the one thing that really bothers me, because as a quote unquote comic book fan, I don't know why I've always kind of had the persona or the thought of, like, we're kind of the people standing in the back of the room. We're kind of the ones who are like, I have great ideas, but might not be too confident to say it, and just, in and on ourselves. So to hear that these types of people are then bashing other ones. It's just like, this movie sucks. I don't know. The whole thing rubs me the wrong fucking way and makes me kind of not like, that's what bothers me more about the MCU than the MCU being the MCU.
And it's so funny too, because I saw a tweet talking about this, how people talk about how the comic book movies or movie universes that are trying to come out and be built need to have of one person that kind of points in the right direction, and you follow what they say. Lord Feige, like the MCU has. A lot of people said that they needed a Feige on the DC side so that they can go, this is the vision we're going to follow, and this is what we're going to go with. You know, to get upset at the fact that that's your thing, you have a formula. And it's like, well, how dare he say that? No, but that's literally what Feige does. He makes sure that the cookie cutter fits, that everything goes according to plan. And if it doesn't, he gets rid of you, or Disney gets rid of you, like they did with Ant-Man, the initial director. They got rid of him, put on someone else. They did it with Star Wars. And I don't know if they follow the same thing, but they did it with Rogue One. And they had to bring in Bryce Dallas Howard's dad. I don't know why I'm blanking on him. Ron Howard. Yeah. Thank you. And he had to come in and finish off that film. So it's like, that's why your movies have worked, because you do follow a certain look to the films. You know, people talk about the use of contrast in those movies and how they don't like to use heavy blacks in any of the contrasting or any of the battles. It all looks gray, and it's really weird, but that's what they're going with. And that seems to be a softer look that the general audience seems to like, and whatever. But I don't know. Like, I don't know why the egos are still so fragile after so many years of successes and billions of dollars. And I have no idea. It's like, you guys shouldn't be on the defensive. Like, if anything, you guys should be doing victory laps constantly. Like, yeah, whatever. We're getting 18 more of these. Who cares? And honestly, who cares? They're not going to see Denis' movies. His movies are nothing like the MCU's. They probably have never seen Blade Runner 2049 or Arrival or Sicario or Prisoners. Like, movies that are legitimately, they were up for Best Picture, and you can count them as, I wouldn't scoff at anyone that put this in their top 100 films of all time if they wanted to. The guy puts out great fucking work, but it's work that these audiences are not going to cross over with, nor should they. They're very different movies. If you just want popcorn entertainment, you're probably going to go see the MCU. But if you want something that you're going to digest and think about and talk about, you're probably going to see movies from people like Denis or others that have criticized him in the past, like Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, if you haven't, or anybody else out there, the one that struck the biggest chord there for what else he's done in the past was Arrival. Have you seen that yet? So good,
man. I just rewatched it 2 days ago again.
Oh my God. It took me a long time. I don't know why it took me so long to not to want to see it, but just to be able to find it, to actually watch it. And then I did, and I watched it back to back. That's how much I fucking like that movie. And then, yeah, it's been in the collection now. God, that movie's so good. Anybody on the other side of the listening, and if you haven't, I highly suggest that movie, because that is one of my top movies, man. I did not see that end twist coming, which I will not say for anybody who wants to go see it, but like, shit was cool. I really like that movie.
Amy Adams was incredible in that. You've got Jeremy Renner as well is in it. And I agree with you, man. That it's probably my favorite movie from Denis. And it's incredible, absolutely incredible. I liked Blade Runner 2049, Prisoners. I don't know if you've seen that with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. If you want something that's it's hard to watch, it's tough to watch. It's very uncomfortable. It's just a brief, like, this is where it starts. Is Hugh Jackman's daughter, I believe, gets kidnapped, and he has a strong inclination as to who it is. So he kidnaps the guy and tortures him until he tells him where his daughter is, but he won't. And like, no matter what he does to him. And then like, it fucks with your head, because you're like, okay, wait, so did he pick the right guy? Or like, it's just really fucking heavy. If you haven't watched Prisoners, so fucking good too.
That guy is Paul Dano, right?
Yes.
I saw something pretty recently with that then. Maybe a trailer. I don't know what the hell I was looking at. Oh, maybe it was something like one of those listicles, so like people who are going to be in the Batman. He's going to be the Riddler. I think that's what it was. And that came up, and I read the review, or I read the story, and now it just struck a chord like, yeah, that's crazy. Because, yeah, the whole movie leads you to believe, like, He's not the guy. Let him go, Hugh Jackman. But every now and then it's a little bit where it's like, well, maybe he is.
Right.
So fuck yeah, that seems intense as hell.
One of Hugh Jackman's awesome performances right there, and hits hard too. If I haven't seen it again since as a parent, so I'm. It's one of those things, like, even when I was watching it, I was like, I'd probably, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'd have the guts to go through all of that, but I don't blame Hugh. She only has so much time to live, and he's not fucking telling you where she is. And now I kind of want to rewatch it again as a dad and see what kind of reactions I have to what Hugh is doing. But yeah, we can talk about Denny forever, and that guy is awesome. And Dune's going to be fine. He's going to be okay in spite of the review bombing. It's apparently getting some really good traction overseas as far as pre-ticket sales, and that's great because I want to see a part 2. They're already calling Dune Part 1, which is huge. That's how apparently it opens, and I want to see him completely finish this. I guess what some people have also called an unfilmable book. And somehow I think he can pull it off. He's a really talented filmmaker.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I did know it was a book. I'm almost positive they tried once before, but I'm also almost positive nobody really dug that take on it. So I want to try to do the entire gambit, see if I can read it and watch the first one and then see. Because now I'm really honestly excited by this guy. Like, I didn't put all the pieces together that this was who was doing it. And now that I know that it's going to be Denis here, like, I'm pretty fucking hyped, actually.
There we go. Worked out for him. Some positive press from our end, at least.
Yeah.
Last one here is the performance to Zack Snyder's Justice League, as it has hit the #1 spot on disc sales. The Snyder Cut managed to outpace The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which is the #2 seller for the week, by a 5-1 margin. The box set of Snyder's 3 DC films, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and the Snyder Cut, also cracked the top 20, showing up at number 14. I know it overseas, there was Amazon, it had the top 3, and it was the Snyder Cut. I forgot what number 2 was. I think it was Fast and Furious 9, and then it was the box set, and then the Blu-ray edition. It was the 4K and then the Blu-ray edition. So the top 4, 3 of them were the Snyder Cut. According to MediaPlay News, Blu-ray formats accounted for 75% of the Snyder Cut's first week unit sales, with 38% of its total tally coming specifically from 4K Blu-ray, with 37% standard and 25% DVD. There's been pictures online of empty shelves to the Snyder Cut. It was initially speculated that Warner Brothers, and they probably still did, but that they purposefully undershipped the DVD or the Blu-rays so that they can say, look, we only moved 2 million copies. It's not a success. But apparently it's hitting the charts, and those are numbers that you cannot hide, Warner Brothers. Discovery's going to see that shit.
I went out and tried to buy it when I could, and I was told they were sold out. So thankfully, huge shout out to Big Game James, my father. He was going to Target that day, and I was like, bro, you got to find it. But also with my dad, like, he was somebody who I had to sit down and like really discuss the differences, the Justice League and the Snyder Cut, because like he watched them both and he'd be like, so wait, which one was in which? And like, so I said to him, Dad, I even call him James. I'm like, James, you got to make sure it says Snyder's on there. Cause if I just get a Justice League, like fucking, it's not only, it's unbeneficial, we're going backwards there. And luckily he got me that Blu-ray. So again, huge shout out to him. I think I actually have to shout out my sister because she ended up paying for it to say happy birthday to me. So I don't know. I got a copy of it because my Walmart sucked and sold out. Or honestly, I think they didn't put them out right away because I saw some there the other day. But anyway, long story short, sorry to ramble, sir. Got mine at a Target and I've watched it twice already.
Nice. Target my local one had 3 copies left. I ended up buying one of the Blu-rays because that was the last one I needed from the US releases. And I'm like, I left that one as like a non-pre-order because I'm like, I'm sure I can probably pick up the standard Blu-ray easiest out of all of them. DVD probably kind of hard to find, and it was. I didn't see it there. And then the 4K, those were gone. So thankfully, I gambled and I guessed the right one, got the Blu-ray. So I'm up to 7 copies right now, but according to Twitter, there's 3 more editions I'm missing. The Canadian release, which has French subtitles, and then it's got a slightly different packaging. Then there's the Liga de Justicia, which is the Spanish version. And then there's a Portuguese version, which I can't pronounce that one. But those are the three that I'm apparently still missing. And I haven't seen, there's other people in the movement with multiple cuts, but there's got to be someone out there that has more copies than I do. There has to be, because
I don't think so, man.
I'm not going to be that guy.
I think you are, man.
I don't want to be that guy.
Like, I'm not. It's awesome though. Like, I'm saying, hats off, salute, man. 7's awesome.
It's a little much, but here's the thing though. I said I'd vote with my fucking dollar, and I fucking did. But I also broke up the pre-orders apart, because if I were to try to buy all 7 at once, I wouldn't have the budget for it. But as the pre-orders went up, I'm like, all right, cool, I'll get this one and this one. And some retailers don't charge until it releases or the week before. Some of them charge you right away. So I was able to break up the charges in that way. And these 3 different editions, of course, the Canadian one is like $60 if I want to ship from eBay. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that one right now. And then the Portuguese and Spanish ones, pretty expensive as well. So I'll get them in chunks. Maybe one will be a holiday present from someone, I don't know, but it might go on a list. But I'm like, all right, 7. I think I'm pretty good with 7 right now. I've voiced my support. Do you think that Warner Brothers will try to spin? Is there any way to hide this? Is there any way to hide this success from Discovery at this point?
I really don't know what they're going to do, man, because the entire thing still just, as I look back on it, even now in my mind, just like people like, you're never going to get this. And then we got it. And then it's like, it's never going to do well. And then it did really well. And like, even what you alluded to, the story of, if it's true, the fact that they didn't make a lot or ship a lot to try to fudge numbers too, is just like, somebody's got to get caught with this bag of hot steaming shit of like, whoever made the call not to trust Zach, like somebody's got to catch the guillotine for it, bro. You know, like at the end of the day, it's a monster. It's a success. I do not at all feel any sort of anything in saying it is the best comic book movie.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, dude, I really, like I said, I watched it so many times now, and I will say it, I'm a DC fan to begin with. On top of that, I loved the Justice League. Like, I love them. My growing up was all about that fucking cartoon. So to see these people in a movie together already was going to pump shit up and make shit mean a lot to me. But then to also see the underdog story of Zach, I think that adds a lot to it. To see how fucking poorly it was treated in the Justice League, just the story is bigger, or as big as the Justice League itself almost, and it all adds on to this of just going, thank God this movie came out, because I fucking love watching it. Discovery has a choice. I mean, it's like you said, there's no way to hide this. There's no way at this point they're not seeing this. Kind of in a long roundabout way, sorry once again to ramble, somebody's going to get stuck with this check of like, we fucked up bad. Especially now that, like, you guys are saying in the last episode of like, Nolan's gone too. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Stop. Trust people and let them go make stuff. Like, stop.
I think it really is Toby Emmerich. And if the rumors are true that he had apparently tried to move over to Netflix and they said no, there was that rumor that came about a month or two ago. He knows that they're probably gonna clean house as soon as Discovery gets their guys in there, and that's very common when one company buys up another, or there's some kind of not a buyout, but when they join, that they end up putting their guys in place of where these other people were. And I think it's a matter of time. As soon as Q1 2022 comes about, I would not be shocked if Toby was out of there and Sarnoff was out of there. We know that the HBO Max guys like Jason Kyler, he's not going to be there anymore. And Discovery's going to put their guys on there. I think that's what it's going to be. And until that happens, whoever's doing this, which I still think is Toby, they're trying to set it all on fire before they leave. It's personal right now for him. We know that he's willing to sabotage the release of the Snyder Cut in all kinds of ways. They did it last week with YouTube, where they unlisted the trailer to sell the 4K of the Snyder Cut. And they don't care. They don't care if it's going to lose them millions of dollars, because for whatever reason, it is a personal thing for him. I think it's a matter of he doesn't want to hear that he was wrong about it.
Agreed. It does seem 100% like a personal vendetta of just a giant fucking ego. And, shit like that personally bothers me. So if that is true, I try not to put ill will out there into the universe. But if it is true that this is literally just about ego and not about business anymore, like, you're going to get the shit end of business more than once then. And you kind of deserve it there, Toby.
Let's see how things shake out in 2022, and let's hope Discovery is somehow, they can't be dumber than Warner Brothers or the guys in charge right now. They've got to, it's got to be a positive. I'm hoping, but we also said that when Walter Hamada came on board, so we've been burned before.
I just have a friend who started at Discovery. I can see if I can get any inside information.
Yeah, there you go. I went on LinkedIn and I added a bunch of people from Discovery, and they're like, "Yep," and connecting, media relations, whatever. And I always, you know me, I post positive Snyder Cut stuff. So hopefully some of that influence goes in there. Who knows? But whatever, every bit helps, I think.
Yep, and these sales too is definitely going to add to that. Like, somebody's going to have to sit and look at it and go like, "Can we sit down and have this whole story? Because we need to know why this seems like you guys fucked up so hard." And at the end of the day, they're going to be like, "Oh, it seems that way because you guys fucked up really hard."
2 more movies, that's it, and film them back to back. Chop them in half, release them. 4 hours each, whatever Zach wants to do, but they can just film it back to back.
That's one of the things that doesn't bother me about the movie, but almost just saddens my heart a little bit with how much I love it. Of like, fuck, I wish there was more. And I'm not one to say never, especially as I hold this shit in my hands physically right now. I swear to God, I am. Like, this thing that I hold in my hands was promised, if not sworn, to never see the light of day. It would never come out. And yet I'm holding it. So I would love parts 2 and 3 in a way that maybe words are failing me to try to describe right now. I really hope it happens, because I watch this movie and I'm just happy. I'm happy as fuck that this was just taken so seriously. The same. It was almost not exactly what I was thinking as a kid, but I'm just like, fuck, somebody took this so seriously. It wasn't just kid shit, This meant something to somebody else so much that they made a 4-hour fucking movie about it. Like, this is amazing. I love it. I love it so much.
Well, I've got hope, Nick, and I hope that next year we'll be talking about how they restored the Snyderverse. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, we'll get there. We got to keep fighting. But that does wrap up the final news story for this chunk of news on today's episode. Let's head into the more personal side of things, which is the Bro Kept Block, what Nick and I have been doing this week. So, Nick, what's been going on in your week? What have you been playing, reading, or what's been happening in general?
I have a 3,000 piece DC Comics puzzle that I'm trying to get done. And I also just switched jobs. So I was used to working from home and now I'm going out for my job, and puzzle production has really fallen. I was trying to get like 25 pieces a day. And now if I get 10, I'm happy. Like, 3,000 pieces at 10 a day. You guys do the math out there. This shit's going to be sitting here for a little bit longer.
I've been watching your progress pictures on Instagram, and I'm always impressed by that, because I'm not good at puzzles, and not even those kinds, not the Lego kind, not the riddles or anything like that. So whenever I see someone put together something with so many pieces, and I watch your progress pics, and then when you have it all completed, I'm always impressed by that. Always. My siblings do it. I'm always like, Jesus, that's amazing. That's incredible. Do you end up framing them or doing anything like that, gluing them, the backs, when you finish them?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Glue them all up, put them in frames. This one will be going above my bed. My good lady wife, who is just too kind to me, already allows me to display the Justice League Icons statues that I already brought up. So those are on top of the headboard. And then behind that, it was a little empty. And this thing's, I think it's like, I don't remember the exact dimensions. I want to say like 37 by 29 or something. That seems really big. So it's not feet. What would that be? Inches? I don't know. Math is not my friend at this time of the night right now, but it's going to be big and huge and sit up there framed and glued, and it will be worth all of it. But like I said, there's a lot right now. There's a lot still left. I'm probably about a third of the way done.
I like that you can have that display, because over the years, Kelly has, I've been kind of, all the old posters I used to have up around the living room and the display case with the statues, they're all in my office now. As soon as it was like, all right, we're going to have a baby and I don't want this stuff out here. And I was like, Oh, it happened to me.
Oh.
I never thought I'd be that guy.
At least you get the office, though. That's cool. Yeah, I have an office with most of the stuff in there as well, but
I guess,
it
but
was,
I still won't put up the posters out of protest. Not even in my
yeah,
office. Like, if I
no.
can't have it out there, then I'm not going to have them up anywhere.
We both know where these belong, and it's not in here.
That's right. That's great. What else have you been doing? Watching it, catching up on any TV or movies?
No, while I do it, I was talking the last time we talked on my podcast. I think we were talking about binging stuff, and we got through Orange is the New Black. And I'm still, honestly, if I'm not watching, like, I started re-going through that. We watched it so fast the first time. I'm still picking up stuff. Like, I really like it. But I'm also going back through Justice League episodes just to keep the theme going or something like that. I don't know, but I can watch Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Sorry, guys. Almost all day, every day. Never fucking gets old. Ever. I don't care how many times I see them. It's so good.
What's interesting about those two shows, Justice League and Unlimited, is how different they got when they switched over, where they went from the constant two-parters focusing on the core members to suddenly we're following Booster Gold for an entire episode. Is that something that, changes which one you kind of appreciate more or one over the other?
Booster Gold, don't you mean Green Lantern?
Did they? I mean, they did some Green Lantern.
No, that was the joke in his episode. Everybody kept going,
right.
"Thanks, Green Lantern," and he'd be like, "I'm Booster Gold," and then at the end, he's just like, "You're welcome." Like, just stops trying to give a shit.
Yeah, that's right. He saves the world, and only that one lady knew about it, right?
Yep. And he gets the girl at the end, which he kind of likes. And then who's the other stretchy guy who's not
Elongated Man? I think.
Thank you.
Or Plastic Man. They didn't have Plastic Man on there.
Yes, correct. Plastic Man was not there, but Elongated Man. And the end of that episode was left cleaning up or something. Yeah, so no, I think actually going back for rewatch value, I do like Unlimited just because of the wider scope of crazy backdoor characters we get sometimes. Like I that might be my first introduction to Booster Gold was through that show. Here. So like that kind of stuff of growing up and learning the entire universe was cool. But like you said, like sometimes the two-parters they're awesome. It just stretches everything out, you know? Damn, that's a good question. Fuck. If I had to pick one though, I think I'm going Unlimited.
Interesting. Yeah, and there's no wrong answer. They're both so solid. They're both so good. And that's also like Unlimited had the one appearance of animated series Swamp Thing. He's like a little background character, but I think they were there was an interview with Bruce Timm or Paul Dini where he said because he was a Vertigo character, they couldn't exactly use him in kids animation because it's like a big PR thing or whatever, because those are mature books and they can't have them. Same reason why they couldn't have the Hellblazer in the animated series, but they were able to put him in the background, which is kind of neat.
Cool. Yeah, I got another one for you too. At the time, they were either making a Batman movie or thinking about a Batman spinoff, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of the Batman characters you actually don't see in there. One of them being my favorite of all time, Nightwing. But Eagle Eye fans can catch him for a split motherfucking second where he's on top of a building and it's like gargoyle. The last one's him and he turns his head. And the only reason we're positive it's him, other than it being confirmed, was there was still the hint of the little bit of a mullet from his animated series look. Like, I've always enjoyed that small detail. It's just like, no, he's there. We don't see him, but motherfucker's there somewhere.
So they wouldn't let him use Nightwing in the Justice League?
Yeah. I don't remember the exact story I was hearing, but we don't see a lot of other Batman people. I don't think we ever get a glimpse of Batgirl or Robin or anything. We just get Batman, and even him, he was used quite sparingly. He wouldn't show up every episode.
I wonder if that was during that era where they were like, no, we can't mix. If we're having Batman movies, we can't mix it up because people are going to get confused. Yeah, I got to research that one. See why they wouldn't let him use as many characters. Really weird.
I think it's exactly what you said, though, of just like the people won't get it. Batman on my TV screen and Batman in my movies? Who is who?
I got to look up that Nightwing one, though. I never caught that.
Yeah. It's so brief. I can't remember the episode off the top of my head. It has something to do with Huntress, though. I don't know.
If you did enjoy Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, as a reminder, there's a comic miniseries currently being published called Justice League Infinite, and that continues the animated series in comic book format. Next week's episode or comic features an alternate universe in which it's kind of like a Red Sun Superman. It's like he's got like the thunderbolts on his chest from the Nazi era, but they switch places. So the Supermen switch universes, and then by issue 2 or 3, different superheroes, Wonder Woman ends up in a different universe, and they hint that in that particular universe, Darkseid and Wonder Woman are a couple. So I'm like, holy shit. Like, that's a story no one ever saw coming. So I think the cover shows them making out. So I'm like, animated series Darkseid and animated series Wonder Woman making out on the cover of this comic book is not something I ever thought I would see, but I'm in for the ride.
Fuck yes, that sounds awesome. And really quick too, just kind of speaking of different universes, that's one of my favorite episodes where the Justice Lords comes in, and it's like they're just separate by a little bit, where Superman actually kills President Luthor, and they're like dominating tyrants of the entire planet. And you get the scene where Batman fights Batman and shit. That is, it's one of my favorite parts too. And then they're both driving around in the Batmobile, and some guy gets all shitty about his food. He's like, wait, this couldn't have been this much. And he gets arrested right there in front of him just for saying something about his meal. And he's like, no, wait, stop. I'll pay whatever. Don't worry. And our Batman, if you will, looks at the other Batman and goes, I'm sure mom and dad would be real proud. And their Batman just goes, shut up. And it's just such a weird thing that it's just like, look at all these Batman going on right now. It's not confusing us now.
Right, and our Batman ended up somehow being the winner. Although initially when they were fighting, and he says, now a little boy, we're fighting for, in this world, a little boy will no longer live without his parents in an alleyway. He's mentioned something, and that's what ends up breaking our Batman down. But then he gets to one up later on and ends up convincing that universe's Batman that he's right. So in the end, our Batman still wins. Of course he does.
It's such a good episode.
Good stuff, man. I'm glad you're revisiting those. It's always fun playing those at the comic shop and seeing everyone kind of stop and start watching an entire episode of Justice League or Batman the Animated Series has the same effect as well. On my end in the week, I briefly mentioned that I was watching The Arrival. I rewatched that a couple of days ago. Wonderful. And I'm about halfway through Blade Runner 2049. Had a little bit of extra time to start watching some movies, and I wanted to visit some of Denis from my collection, and I'll probably go to Prisoners next. Now that we talked about it tonight, I kind of want to watch that. I found that Blade Runner 2049 hasn't really, maybe it's because I just watched it back to back with Arrival, but it hasn't really captured me quite as much. But I'm like, I know it's still good, but it's based on something that's already existing. It's not an original story. It kind of has to follow a certain thing, but I still enjoy it very much and been watching that. But work's been kind of the same. It's been a steady week, which is a good thing in the comic business right now. It's like, all right, things are operating as normal. All right. Batman Day came and went. It was just like every other year's Batman Day, where DC thankfully printed some comics just for Batman Day, but honestly, no one came out specifically. Maybe 2 subscribers came out specifically to get those comics, and I have 25 left over of each, and I'm like, yeah, just put them on a table, have at it. They're free. Kids can get the Fortnite one, and there's a Batman World one for the adults. And it's Batman Day. It's never big at comic shops. It's not Free Comic Book Day. It's not Halloween Comic Fest. Batman's one of the biggest superheroes in the world, but he's never, I don't think you can do a Spider-Man Day, and it's never going to have the draw of Free Comic Book Day. So that was kind of my week. Nothing terribly exciting, but that's kind of a good thing. You know, I'm healthy. I'm not sick. I have a job. I have a car. Weather's not too bad. Kelly's healthy. She's working. Leo's healthy. He's going to school. So a lot to be grateful for this week.
Bro, that just blew my mind too. Leo's in school. Where the fuck has the time gone, man? Like, the fact that he's already in school, like, that's crazy. I don't, in my head, when you bring him up, I'm like, oh, he's got a baby. And like, no, not anymore, huh?
I don't know if it counts because it's not pre-K. It's like a speech therapy thing where they made these classes specifically at this public school so that before they hit pre-K, they can come to this class and kind of catch up on certain learning disabilities, or in his case, speech development. So that's what he's there for. The doctor recommended it and the school features it. And I'm for it because it gets him around other kids, it gets him interacting, gets him in that school setting, and it helps his speech, which he's a little behind on. And we speculate it's because he's learning 2 languages, both Spanish and English. So that's probably it, but we know it's not a developmental thing. He doesn't seem to have like a learning disorder that we've seen or that the doctors have said. He's just a little behind on his speech, which my brother had. I had a little bit of that. Kelly's brother had that same thing. So it just runs in the family, it seems.
You also just blew my mind too of him just like trying to figure out what's up. And now two people are speaking different languages and he's just like, oh fuck, man. Which one do I use when?
You assholes. I'm I'm 3.
That's great though, man. I'm so happy to hear everybody's happy and healthy and you all are doing great. And it's weird in podcasting world because you guys are such a big part of my life because I hear you all the time. So it's nice to know that.
You are too, man. It makes me glad to see your updates on Instagram, hear you on Buds, Bros, and Superheroes, and then when you make it on the show, it's a good way to catch up, to really get more personal with what's been going on over the last month or so. So I know you went through a job change recently, but it sounds like things are slowly getting steady. It sounds like you're getting an episode out this Saturday. Go ahead and take that moment to tell the Brokehead Core about Buds, Bros, and Superheroes and what's going on that end.
Damn, dude, I appreciate that so very much. Thank you. So yeah, the name of the show is Buds, Bros, and Superheroes, and that's the 3 kind of topics in which we talk about. So buds are for the travelers of the green, those who like the devil's lettuce or those who like to imbibe their cannabis. I had just kind of, thank you very much, man. I started a new job, so I am now actually a dispensary associate. So my knowledge in the product and how it goes on here in my home state of Pennsylvania has really gone up. I'm hoping to bring a lot more of that knowledge to it and just reviews as well, because now I have a plethora of product around. I'm really, really excited where with that's going. The Bros is just kind of figuring out, I'm hoping to get some new guests, some people I'm meeting at work who can also help with the bud section of like, where are you from? What have you been doing? Because we don't always get that at work or get that in life of like, oh, you have siblings? I've known people for years. And I'm like, oh, I never knew you were left-handed or just something weird. So I usually try to talk about that. And then Superheroes is, kind of like what we're doing here, just bullshitting about different topics sometimes, or most times we pick one media. But lately I've been kind of skewing out of the superheroes a little bit. So we could talk about like Game of Thrones or Harry Potter. I'll give you a preview of the one coming up. A guy I started working with is a Jay and Silent Bob fan. So we're going to talk about Jay and Silent Bob reboot. And the way I'm kind of try to shoehorn that into the superheroes is, well, Blunt Man and Chronic are there. And, that counts. At the end of that movie, there is a Chronic Con, which is kind of like a Comic Con, but for this fake movie in this side of their universe, like it'll shoehorn well in there, but it's just kind of about hanging out. And like you said, catching up it's awesome. It's great. Thank you for that plug, dude. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I appreciate it. And of course the movie reboot, it's got Batman in it too. So easily, like, it's got
Val
Batman
Kilmer's
in it.
Fuck yeah, you're right.
Oh, and Ben Affleck. That's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ben Affleck's in it too. There's two Batman.
Yeah. Isn't does Kevin Conroy show up? Or am I thinking of, because he shows up in one of the movies in a convenience store scene.
Yoga hosers, yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
It's my favorite. He's like, girls, that just wasn't polite. And then his young accomplice who's with them buying cigarettes, he goes, come on, Robin.
That's right.
Fucking love that movie. I think out of all the movies he's made, people kind of really hate that one the most because it's so weird and peculiar. I like it because it's weird and peculiar. Spoilers, it's been out for so long. But any movie that's going to have like little bratwurst Nazis, like kind of what I was talking about with the Three Jokers, like never would have saw that coming, Never went into the movie thinking I was going to see something like that. And I saw it. It's a good, bad, or indifferent. It is different. So I love that movie.
It's a perfect example of Kevin Smith, as he said before. He's making movies that he wants to see in theaters. He's no longer, and it's probably very freeing for him, but he's no longer worried about this has to make this much money because the studio's on me and they're paying for it. He's at that point in his career where he's like, you know what? I've got so many years left. I want to make movies that I want to see, that I want to make with my friends. And so far it's been working out for him, and it sounds like the fans are enjoying it too.
Yeah, just one last thing. Sorry to drag on about Kevin, but I can all day. He already finished the first cut of Clerks 3, and he just like wrapped shooting a few weeks ago. Like he does his shit at his pace, and then I hope, like you were talking about in terms of not needing to worry about how it makes money, he's going to four-wall it again, and he's going to travel the fucking country and just know that his 10,000 people in whatever region are going to show up in that region and see the movie and do the shit. And it's gonna be perfect, like he kind of did just with Reboot. Luckily, he got all that done before COVID, and now, in my opinion, I don't think we have it under control, but we have at least gathering in large groups a little bit more under control. So I could totally see him doing that.
Has he set a date for when Clerks 3 is coming out?
Not that I've seen,
Okay.
but with a first cut done already, you'd have to imagine it's got to be sooner than later.
Yeah, probably next year, sometime next year. It's got to be.
I would agree. I'm hoping like 6 months tops.
And I know you'll be there. I'll be there. I liked Clerks 1 is my favorite Kevin Smith movie, so I got to see how he wraps it up. I don't think we're going to see a Clerks 4, so I got to see the ending to this particular the trilogy.
Yeah, because I like number 2. Like, I love number 1, but number 2, for whatever reason, like that cell scene at the end where he's like, I'd buy the quick stop and we'd run it ourselves. Like, that shit hits a chord in me. I love that scene so much.
Awesome, Nick. Well, you've been great. You're always an awesome co-host as well on this podcast. So thank you so much for joining me again this week. And go ahead and let them know where they can find you in case they want to continue the conversation. I know we have some Kevin Smith fans in the Brokehead Core.
Thank you again for that. Yeah, I'm trying with the Buds Bros and Superheroes to have that be the main one. I'm on Instagram a lot. We do have a Twitter, but I'm not great at working the Twitter machine. So like I get notifications, but I wouldn't say that's my number one place to go. I would say definitely Instagram. Hit us up on that. Follow us on that. In terms of wanting to listen to more of the podcast, YouTube, Podbean, Apple, all the regular places. It's, again, a very great honor to be here with you, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the Brokehead Corps for not complaining and kicking me out yet. It's a great, fun fucking time, and I can't thank you enough.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, and to you as well on the other side. Thank you for tuning in this week. If you want to be heard on the podcast, you can leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/thereasonsimBroke. If it's a question, feedback, comment on one of last week's or this week's news, whatever might work, you can be heard, and you can record it right from your phone. You just click on that link or type it in, speakpipe.com/thereasonsimBroke, 90 seconds or less, and we may feature it right here on the podcast. Otherwise, for everywhere else, you can find us heading over to thereasonsimbroke.com. Thank you once again for joining us this week. I've been Daniel, and Brokehead Core, all will be well. And Nick, if you could have seen one character that was not featured in the Timverse of Justice League Unlimited, that they did not use, maybe in the animated series too, you can pick from the Batman world. Is there any character that comes to mind that you would have liked to have seen the animated version of?
Dang, yeah. Well, we did bring it up, so it would have been cool to get some more Swamp Thing or some more Hellblazer, something more from the dark in the same vein. I don't think we got any Zatanna. In Batman we did. I don't remember Zatanna in Justice League unless I'm really just doing her dirty.
She had a brief appearance in the one where Wonder Woman gets turned into a pig.
With Cersei, yes, from the Greek god one. Yes, I do remember that one now. You're right. Now, is that the one? Because it's so great. For anybody who doesn't know, Zatanna has to speak her spells backwards, and there's one of the shows that puts the subtitles backwards.
Oh, I don't know if that's the one. I'm not sure.
It might be that or Young Justice. I don't know, but I think that's just such a fine attention to detail that a chef's kiss to whoever thought of that. You guys are fucking just artists.
That's it's a good one. When you say Swamp Thing or Hellblazer, now I'm like, what about like the Watchmen? Like, what if they just went all out? Like, if we're going to use Vertigo, let's
just go. Yeah, exactly. That'd be so good. Oh, man.
The way you get Swamp Thing, if you're back then, you're like, we want the Watchmen. No, you can't have it. Well, fine. What about Swamp Thing? Well, all right, you can have Swamp Thing. Like, you aim higher, and then you actually get what you really want. Or sneak him in like they did, apparently.
Or now, too, as I'm looking, V would have been fun, too. If you just kind of stepped in and said a bunch of V words like, I'm sorry that I vigorously vindicated your whatever, and just left. And everybody was like, well, that was weird.
It was speculated on that after Doomsday Clock, or at the very end, that V would be next. Like, he would cross over into DC Universe. And so far they haven't. They've kind of left that one alone. But that would have been one that I would have expected too. If you're going to play with the Watchmen, which is considered a grail among literature, then, V, you can use V. And so far they haven't, but maybe they will one day. I think the one thing I would have liked to have also seen in the animated series is more from the Green Lantern Corps. You got a little bit of Hal Jordan and a little bit of Kilowog from what I remember. I know we saw him in Superman the Animated Series, but a specifically Green Lantern Corps arc, man, that would have blown me away. And maybe there's still time for that in the comic book series, or if we get another season like we're apparently getting with Batman the Animated Series.
I'd never thought of that. I could think of only one episode where they're in it, but yeah, that would have been cool.